And now we will move to ConfluxScan. So we will start by exploring ConfluxScan a little bit. So at first, when you get into the main page of ConfluxScan, you will see information about the proof of work layer and the proof of stake layer. You can see information about the epochs, the block numbers, the amount of accounts, the amount of transactions, contracts, the block time, and the hash rate. You have the information of both the proof of work and also the proof of stake. Here you can see the total stake, the average APY for the staking, and you have the latest voted block, current block number, which is being voted, and the total rewards that have been given. This is very interesting information. For example, if you want to analyze the tokenomics of CFX and the amount of emissions, all that information can be tracked using ConfluxScan. And also it provides very important metrics. How many users, for example, how many active accounts, the amount of transactions, which is a sign of the adoption of the chain itself. And the block time. For Conflux Core, you can see that we have half a second. For eSpace, we have 1.4 seconds. You can see there is quite a difference, more than the double. There is a lot of information about transactions, about accounts. You can see latest blocks, latest transactions. There is information also of different tokens that are on the network, different NFTs. Very important thing about ConfluxScan is that it allows you to deploy your contracts here and to verify your contracts, for example. Here is a list also of the internal contracts and the contract sponsorship. Basically, you can sponsor the gas fee of your users. This applies only for Conflux Core. You need to select the contract address you want to sponsor, and you need to deposit CFX that will be used to sponsor the gas fee for the users of that smart contract. Also, you have these internal contracts that we mentioned. There are many of them. I encourage you to look into the Conflux documentation. There is more details on all of these contracts. For example, this is the sponsor whitelist control contract. This is the contract you interact with when you want to sponsor the gas for your smart contracts. Then here is where you can deploy your smart contract. You just need to include the bytecode and the constructor arguments, or you can import the JSON file. You can connect your wallet here and do the deployment of your smart contracts here. It's not the most common way of doing it. Most people use Remix or other tools like Fearweb, Hardhat, Truffle, but this is an option, so it's important for you to know about it. Same happens with the contract verification. When a contract is already deployed in the blockchain, you can put the address of the smart contract here, and you can verify the contract and to make sure that the code actually matches the one in the blockchain. This also allows you to interact with the smart contracts using ConfluxScan, which is another important feature of it. We are now on eSpace. I put the contract for Nucleon MasterChef. So this contract, you can see it's verified. This means that this code here matches the one that exists on the blockchain. This way we can make sure what contract are we interacting with, what's the logic in that contract, and we can check the exact details, all the variables and functions that are included on these smart contracts. Starting with the name, the compiler version, we can see all the contract here, and we can also get the contract API. And then you have the constructor arguments. The other good thing about verifying the contract, apart from being able to see all the code and all the information, is that you can read the contract by just calling functions. For example, we can see how many rewards per second does the contract provide or is minting, because this one mints a NAT token or distributes NAT token, which is the governance token of Nucleon. Then you can also write the contract. You can, for example, deposit liquidity here on any of the pools, and you can also withdraw that liquidity. You can use emergency withdraw, for example. This is a very important function, because in case that the front end has any problem and you cannot access the front end, but you want to withdraw your liquidity from the protocol, you can come to ConfluxScan and withdraw here your liquidity without needing to use Nucleon's front end in this case. You can also harvest the rewards here. So for reading the contract, you don't need to connect your wallet. You can, for example, get the pool information. We just put one of the pools, and we get the amount of allocation points, the last reward time, and the amount of rewards per share you get basically on that pool, which is a characteristic of that specific pool inside the MasterChef contract. But if you want to write to the contract and send the transaction, you will need to connect your wallet here. And once you do that, you are able to deposit, withdraw, or do changes to the contract itself or to the variables. So this is one of the main features that ConfluxScan has. Of course, you can see for this smart contract all the information about the transactions, methods, block height, transaction hash, or fit transaction that interacted with this smart contract. Same with the value and all the other fields. And you can see when there is some token transfers as well. So for example, you can see some people harvesting their rewards here, people depositing liquidity, and you can check all the details. So this is very important if you want to start developing in Conflux. You need to get very familiar with all these tools, and you need to be able to leverage all these tools in an efficient way. Apart of being able to interact with contracts, give information about contracts, transactions, there is other tools and information here. Like for example, there's chart, statistics, and the API documentation. Basically, ConfluxScan, apart from providing this interface and this easy-to-use platform in order to explore the blockchain, they also provide an open API that allows anyone to call for information and to get this information by themselves without using this application. So all this information that is displayed here on the page can actually be accessed by using the API. So there is different API endpoints for both eSpace and Core and for mainnet and testnet. So there is a free version, but there is also a standard version depending on the amount of usage you need. By using this API, you can actually get information directly from the blockchain. For example, you can get information about accounts, contracts, transactions, blocks, tokens, NFT assets. And you can see that there is a lot of statistic and very important information that you can get from here. And these APIs is actually what is used when you deploy a smart contract or when you verify a smart contract. So you got these functions here that allows you to, for example, get the source code, get the API, and many other stuff. You can actually try the API from here. For example, let's look at the contracts that use most gas. So you basically select the endpoint, you can input some values, and you just execute it. And you get this response with all the information. This is the contract address that used the most gas during these last 24 hours as displayed here. So you can also, for example, copy and paste this and just call the API with your browser. This can be used for many things, like for check token balances, to check NFT balances. It can also be called from the command line using curl. So here is also the code. You can just copy and paste it on your application. This API is a very important piece and a very important tool for the whole ecosystem because it's fundamental to interact and to read what is happening with the blockchain.